there YouTube, today I'm going to be bringing you a review of the Lunar Chronicles series, which is a book series that I read recently and I absolutely fell in love with. It'll be a review for the series as a whole because I read all 4 books in a very short amount of time, so I don't know if I can actually separate them. So the Lunar Chronicles is a series of 4 books written by Marissa Meyer, and they are Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and Winter. These books are retellings of classic fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White, and they puts them into a futuristic sci-fi type of world, and they are super good. They are young adult novels, so it kind of has some of the things that are popular in young adult novels, but I think generally they're just like really good books. I mean, we're not talking like award-winning or anything, but I enjoyed them so much. And really just enjoyment factor is all that really matters in a book, right? So I have actually been wanting to read these books for years, like since Cinder came out. I always saw it in the bookstore, and the cover of the like android foot going into the red high heel was really intriguing to me, and I don't know why I never picked it up, and I should have so long ago, because why did it take me so long to read these books? So I did read these through audiobook because I do a lot of commuting for my job, so it's really the only time I have to sit down and read. So the audiobooks really helped, and I was able to finish them in a good amount of time. I think it took me about a month or a few weeks to finish the whole series. The audiobooks are narrated by Rebecca Soler, and I felt like overall she did a really good job. The only critique I have of it is I think I read this in a review of them and then it stuck out to me, so I'm just gonna make it stick out to you too. But the character Scarlet is French, and so the narrator would do a French accent, but sometimes it went in and out, but it does get better towards the end of the book. I feel like she's a lot more consistent with it as the books went on. It was just like, especially in Scarlet, in the second book, I was just like, ooh. But I mean, it's not really a big deal. That's just like the only thing about this audiobook that bothered me. So I don't really know if I should classify the Lunar Chronicles as a dystopian novel. While it does take place in the future, after a lot of wars and reorganization of countries and governments and things like that, it's not really your typical like dystopian novel. It doesn't have a lot of the tropes. It just kind of uses a dystopian type setting, but it's a generally very peaceful type of thing, and there's only one really bad government. But you know, you gotta have a baddie someplace. So one of the things that I really liked about this book is that there's no love triangle. This is one of the things that I hate about YA books, is a lot of the time there is like the main girl character and then there's 2 boys that fight over her, and I hate that so much. I feel like it's such, oh, it annoys me so much. But this didn't have any of that. Each of the characters had their own love interests and their own stories, and it was just great to read that. While there is a lot of focus on romance in this series, there is enough of another plot where the romance kind of takes a back seat to the greater plot, and the romance isn't the entirety of the characters. These books are retellings of fairy tales, so there's a lot of fairy tale elements in them, or at least elements from the original fairy tales. And these don't seem like they're super heavy-handed. Like there's a whole thing with like Cinder's cyborg foot, but I feel like it's a good callback and enough of an original plotline to not make it kind of lumped in with all the other fairy tale retellings. A lot of the references to the fairy tales are kind of hidden, and I didn't realize it until like much later after it happened. There's something would be mentioned again and I would just be like, oh, that's what that is. And so that was really great that they weren't just so blatant, all the fairy tale references. They were kind of peppered throughout the story and done in a really great way. These books, even though they are based on fairy tales, are definitely their own stories. One of the things I didn't really like so much about these books is that some of the romances felt like they were a little rushed, where suddenly the characters had these like intense feelings towards another character, and I was like, whoa, how did we get here? This was especially apparent with Scarlet and Wolf. I kind of felt blindsided by their romance. I was just like, oh, I know, I I know you thought he was cute, but now you're like in love with him. There are other characters and relationships that grow really well. Like, I think Cress and Thorn's characters really grow a lot. And the relationship that those two characters have with each other, I feel like it's slow enough within the time frames of the book where you're not just like, whoa, where did that come from? But it just felt like a very natural type of thing with those two characters. I thought the development of Cinder and Kai's characters into their roles in society and their relationship with each other was really great. You definitely saw a change, a really big change from the first book to the last book, and you could see it kind of grow throughout the books. So that's really good. I don't really like sudden character changes. I really like it when you can find that slow burn. So Cinder and Kai's relationship was a little bit, their romantic relationship was a little bit fast, but you know, it's fine. Books go by really, really quickly. I think one of my friends described them as potato chip books, where you can kind of just like eat them up really quickly and it tastes really good. But they're like good chips. They're like the Lay's Ruffles chips with a lot of flavor. I would have to say my favorite characters in this book are Cress and Thorn, and I was just screaming in my car because I love both of those characters so much, and the development of their relationship, so good. I definitely think that the strongest book out of this series might be Cress. I think that's the one that I enjoyed the most, but maybe because it had the most of Cress and Thorn and they're my favorite characters. I felt like Winter was a little long. It's like 97 chapters or something ridiculous like that. It just went on forever, and a lot of kind of final moments of it I was just like, okay, we didn't really need that, but let's go. Let's pick it up. So I feel like Winter is a little bit slower than the rest of the books. Alright, that's my review of the Lunar Chronicles by Melissa Meyer. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't spoil anything, but still gave you a good indication of what these stories are about and the good and bad things I liked about them. You know, all the stuff that reviews do. Let me know in the comments if you read this series, what you thought about it, who your favorite characters are, all of that thing, and if you want to scream with me about Cress and Thorn, you can do that over on Twitter, because I'm always happy to talk about cute characters. Alright, that's all I've got for you guys today. I'm Christy Lou. Till next time, matane!